But it's interesting because we see this in the Christian tradition sometimes when I talk to scientists who are also Christians, and every once in a while you get one who is fixated on the historicity of the Bible and trying to prove their faith by finding these empirical data points like the life of Jesus and so forth. And it's always bewildering to me when somebody I ask them about their faith and they talk about their faith coming from this historicity. And I feel I don't want to like pass judgment entirely, but it just seems a little misguided because when you get too fixated on these facts, then you start to lose track of the spiritual practice that's being allegorically presented. And yeah, I wonder about the value of doing that.
Um, well, that's always there. That sometimes people use empirical means to bolster their faith in a spiritual practice, and that's a very tricky slope. Um, I would not do that. I would have a faith in spiritual process based on my spiritual experiences. The the difference here between, say, a Christian scientist and the current findings which I'm sharing is that I'm sharing here precise numbers which are, you know, having an amazing or stunning correlation or congruence in modern scientific facts. I mean, you go out there and find me any old book which has a date for the origin of the universe, origin of the sun so close. You'd be surprised that people have been asking this question about the origin of the sun, origin of the universe for the last so many hundreds of years. And in fact, in 1800s, when the Britishers, for the first time, when they came to India and they came across these numbers, they laughed because they had all been brought up on the Christian philosophy, which was about having an Earth which is only few thousand year old. So they laughed, they scoffed, and how can the Earth or how can the universe be a few billion years old? But lo and behold, we have now these numbers matching up. I agree. Those numbers, maybe the modern science has this problem, that problem, and that's why those numbers can change. But still, the numbers which we have right now, they're stunningly, you have to agree.
No,
Right now,
that's
they're
crazy
stunning.
for sure. That's
They're incredibly close to the modern scientific claims. How did it so happen? Maybe we're in lucky space of time where they have somehow or other mirrored up. But if you look at the history of these scientific dates, they have come closer and closer to Puranic dates. And I'm hoping that it will become more closer and closer, but that does not disturb my faith because my faith in spiritual life is coming from spiritual practice. It's not, you know, just balanced on this empirical findings. If I had not find these dates, would my faith be tortured? Would it be dodged? No, because again, my spiritual practice is based on my spiritual faith is based on my spiritual practice. And I'm just sharing these dates to show that the claim which many spiritual followers of the Vedic tradition make, the Vedas are an absolute truth, may be true in some regard. And when you see at these dates, we're making a claim. The claim is that the Vedas are coming from a superhuman source, and here we have an extraordinary data which supports that claim. That's the only call I'm making here.
I mean, I think that there is ample evidence to say that the Vedas are very old, and that texts that are this old, that are preoccupied with the questions of origin and cycles, and are thinking about the solar system, and are thinking about the universe, and are thinking about the history of the Earth and these extinction events, that displays kind of an astonishing depth of knowledge, which, I don't think that the Christian Bible deals with this kind of geological, uh, anthropological history of the planet. And so if you argue about the dates, fine. Like there's open questions about how empirical science will align with the dates or not. But it does speak to the documents being from a culture that had figured a lot of stuff out and had a tremendous amount of knowledge. And I think that that reflects something deeper and more interesting to me, because we have this perception that our Western society is the first one to have this complete sense of cosmic order and planetary order. But if the Vedas are talking about these things, then it suggests that the culture that wrote them already had this knowledge. And that in some way is supernatural, because the way that we look at the past is to imagine primitive societies that couldn't possibly have come up with such wisdom. And I think that that's where the grain of truly interesting ideas lies, which is, where do these ideas emerge from to be written down in the Vedas? Who are the people that had this insight?
That was so profound, the way you put it all together. That the Vedic culture, where this knowledge is coming from. We should be more curious about that than to be concerned about whether the modern findings are precise or accurate, or are they based on wrong basis or not. But this whole idea that how come a Vedic culture be talking about so many subjects in so much detail, and then us, because we have this idea of looking back at the past and thinking that that we are the most advanced form of human beings which are on the planet Earth. But maybe that is up for a question now, and that was very beautifully put by you. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I mean, but I can't.
I mean, there's a lot of people right now, and we've been having.
I was going to say, I can't take credit for that idea.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are convinced that humans have either descended from something much greater than the archaeology imagines, or that they've had contact with somebody who has. And there's endless arguments and cases being made for that. So
I also think that it's more interesting to talk about the universalities and the things that emerge from these ancient texts than it is to argue about the specifics. Because you said something about skepticism early in the conversation, where you're like, if you have a skeptical mindset, you can look at something and you can poke holes in it. And I think that's a useful skill for a scientist or a philosopher or anyone to have. But the way that I see the goal of this project is to find the commonalities, because the commonalities are going to be the pieces from which we can build an understanding that is greater than the one that we have right now. And I kind of got this from Shiloh, because he's always looking at texts and ideas and various sources that might not have the reputational heft that's associated with sources that are accepted by the scientific community or something. And yet he's able to always pull something interesting from them, where he's like, look, even if they're wrong about all this other stuff, I think that this is an interesting point. And this point can be folded in with this point and can give us a better understanding of nature altogether. And so I feel like you're helping us put together a better sense of the history of Earth, because these are texts that are unquestionably old, and you can split hairs about just how old they are, but unless somebody's purporting that they were written in the last 100 years, then you're left with the conflict of, how did they know? How did they know to ask these questions?
Yeah, who were these people? Who are these ancient people that put these together?